Hello and welcome to step 31. So, even though this step only technically has 14 photo etched pieces, and I know for some people 14 might as well be 4 million, it's not that bad. This is going to be somewhat, well, maybe it won't be that bad now that I've kind of preliminarily put the time in, but it's gonna be interesting getting these pieces all together and working the way that God and this company intended it to work. My faith in all of this is a little shaky. I'll be completely honest on that. But let's get down to it. So the biggest problem is, excuse me, I am still kind of recovering from my COVID experience. Making these very small, essentially what they are is loops. I did look online. Some of them were saying that they should be, I'm holding up this mud flap setup that they've made. Some are saying it should go straight up off of the mud flap and then loop around the front and attach. Some are saying each side should go up and both sides should flare out, go up and come around like a circle on top that's centered off of the mud flap. And honestly, when I'm looking at what they've got on the drawing, they don't really show what to do. It mostly seems like what they're doing is the first one, which is bending it from the back and then looping it around. And so that's kind of what I was trying to replicate. I don't know how much of this is going to show up. And by trying to replicate, I sincerely mean trying, because succeeding's a whole nother thing. But what I came up with for setting these up was you take the small photo etch piece that's supposed to be wrapped around, and what I did was I'm running my forceps right down the middle. Now I've got these nice narrow forceps, so you might have thicker forceps at the end, at the tip, but you can see there's just one larger center piece amongst all of the folding. And instead of being too fancy and doing anything, I put it like that, and then I just fold it around. And by holding it, I'm just tucking one side in to the other. Now, what leads me to believe that centering it might be the way to do it is that this folds kind of so that the center is equal, and it's got two rivet details on either side where it's going to be attached in there. So that's giving me this kind of weird looking bulbous setup. I'm not going to say that I am terribly, thrilled and happy and excited by how this is coming out. I mean, I really prefer to know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, because I also like to understand what I'm modeling. This is the best I'm doing now. Completely honestly, in the future, maybe, and I'm only holding off, maybe I do a 3D one of these with all this stuff incorporated, because the only thing that's holding me back is how thin this is. These mud flaps are nice and thin, but they are photo etched. I mean, putting any sort of flap in them, any sort of bending, which you do see on the real thing, not really going to happen with this without it looking like bent metal. It's going to look more like, bending up fenders rather than curving thick rubber or whatever else these mats might be made out of. I think they're just thick rubber. But anyway, that said, this is what we're working with right now, so this is what I'm working with. But I thought that the answer that I came up with for this would work the best. It gives that little bit of a hole in there. It gives us what we need. It's not perfect. At least I don't think so. But I haven't yet found a walk-around that shows these flaps on an M1070, and I do not have one available nearby to go and take pictures of. I just haven't seen them. So, in that case, we're kind of stuck with how other modelers have done it, and or what we can do to get this done. But the nice thing about this particular way of doing it is it does get them done in a rather timely and relatively easy fashion, as long as you don't tweezer launch them and you take care of them as you should with small photo etch parts. So trying to show you what I'm doing, but that generally, okay, so we've got all the parts formed. Now we just got to glue them together. And this being all photo etch, again, I'm using my black super glue. I'm just putting a little dab on a piece of plastic, similar, I mean, it's exactly like what I showed much earlier in the series for building this, but I just have it off to the side here. And I'm doing again what I did with step 30, taking my hobby knife, dipping it in the glue, transferring it over onto one of the pieces of photo etch, in this case the main piece that I can hold with my hand. Now, these reflector pieces that they have that I've cut out, so far as I have been able to tell, there is no handedness, no right hand, left hand, up or down with them. So you should be able to take them and put them on. And these are a physical cover in real life. So they should have a little bit of thickness, and they can be a little screwed up in real life. And remember, it doesn't matter that we have this little bit of extra around here. We can clean that up in a bit. But what I'm aiming for is to just try and get those two little dots on either side even, so that they look relatively nice. So there's that one. And I'm kind of fiddling around. I mean, honestly, when I put it right on the first time, it was pretty much right on. But I can't leave well enough alone. I know a lot of modelers like me. So there's the second one. Now, at this point in time, I can see that there's a little bit of a ridge right there that didn't get filed down. We'll deal with that after this is set. I'll shave that down just a titch. And then I'm going to go through with my, before that, with my uncure, my debonder, whatever you want to call it. Put it on my Q-tip. Make sure that's well saturated. Recap that before I drop it or make a mess. And then just going to go through and see if I can pick anything up just to make it better. I am not worried about making it perfect. Looks like that's the black I'm seeing is in the holes, in the slots, in the whatever the etching was. All right. So now I know that that's relatively clean. And since everything was sticking so well, I'm going to just quickly take a couple of swipes. Right, like that. Boom, done. Let's check this one while we're at it. Nope, looks fine. And so now we're at the point to where we're going to want to put all those little pieces on here. Hooray! I know this is the key moment. Now all of these were bent. The problem is, apparently when I bent them, they really touched each other well. So you may have to go through and open up these arms. I could not figure out a way to bend them onto the photo etch flap. You needed another arm. And as you can see, things will fly. This is nerve-wracking. This is brain surgery for me right now. Hence the idea that I had in my brain of, hey, why not make it out of 3D? So if you are sitting there going, what did I get myself into for this? You are far from alone. Now, what I'm going to do to kind of try and keep this gluing under control is I'm going to put some glue on the backside. Now, the backside should be easier to clean up. Not going to be as visible, that kind of thing. So just going to put it on the back for right now. Now, I'm going to try pre-gluing and see how that goes with this. They don't have any glue in front, so I can lay that down. Take this, open that up just a tiny bit. There we go. And being as stupid careful as I can, put that on. That seems to be okay. Nothing came screaming out or breaking. That seems glued on there, so I'm going to do the same for the next one. Now, what I like about this black glue, this vinyl enhanced glue, if you will, I'm not 100% certain what's in there, is that it has a little bit of give and it has a little bit of time. It's not a slow gel. It's just, I don't know what the word would be. It's almost impure. Because the material that's in there, and I think it is vinyl. So I'm just setting that on there like so. Yeah, I like doing the pre-positioning of the glue. That does leave a cleaner look. The only downside is I'm not doing anything on the front. I'm not sure if I want to, because part of what's making this work is having this split open. So I'm not really putting a lot of stress on anything, so I'm not going to accidentally launch anything into the stratosphere. Not quite as clean, but that worked. Now, real quick before it sets, I'm just going to run this through to make sure that it's working. Okay, it ran in a straight line. That's a good sign. Take that out. And I'm going to use the tip of this because it's even finer. And just put a little bit of a bead. Okay, that's actually in the slot. It looks a little out, but it is. These are difficult. This is kind of crazy. This is not the craziest thing I've done. In my opinion, the craziest thing I've done is when I built the Type 59-1 artillery piece from Trumpeter. Some of you may know what that is. If you don't, look it up. But it is a 130 millimeter long-range artillery piece. And before the United States created the M1070 175 millimeter artillery gun or howitzer on the M110 chassis, the M10, well, the M107 M110 chassis. The Type 59-1 was the longest range artillery piece in the world, and the M107 beat that. And don't trust all my numbers. This is all just an aside while this is drying real quick. But that had some of the smallest, craziest little plastic pieces I had ever seen, including little tiny plastic wing nuts. That was nuts. No pun intended at all, because that was a test. This is in that category. However, it does seem to be working. So I'm going to, once again, put my debonder on my Q-tip and just see if... Part of this is when I'm looking at it at an angle, the way that the glue and the debonder work with the photo etch. I don't know if there's a different etching on the photo etch or what, but it looks like there's this massive glue blob. But the second that I changed and shifted it, it's more like a glue stain. It just, no, there's something there, but it's very minor comparative. So, and some of you might be asking, fine, I'll talk about it while I'm finishing this. Yes, I really enjoyed building that Type 59. I like building artillery pieces, and it was a piece at IPMS Nationals in 2022 that won first place. So if you happen to have been in Omaha and you saw it, that was the piece. It was a lot of fun to build. It was a straight out of the box build. I did not do anything but just build it well. But because it had some photo etched parts in it, it did not qualify for the strict out of the box build, or the only plastic or one material or whatever that rule was started then. Now again, I'm just checking this out. All right, ta-da, we have one piece built. Excuse me. Now, before we move on to the second one, let's check it out. What we're being told is we're going to take this spring right here and stick it right into that formed photo etch spot that came from that piece way back when. I don't even remember what step, but a long time ago, feels like. And it fits, but as you might imagine, yeah, it fits, but it sags. So to get this to work right, this has to be glued in, because any amount of stress is just going to pull that down. And two, this will have to be glued on. Now, if you've seen these kind of systems in real life, yeah, this is pretty much all it is. It's a big spring piece of metal with the flap kind of riveted on, like so. I don't have photos of it. I don't remember if the rivets have a positive attachment onto that or not. I honestly don't remember. And let's move on to this one, see if we can do the same thing. So we've got the front here and the back here. So taking my knife, add just a little bit of glue. I'm going to take, pardon pardon me, take one of these. Yeah, none of these apparently when I folded them stayed open enough. And you just have to give it enough room, like a fingernail's width, just to get it in there. And don't flip it over like I just did. But it's just enough to get it on there and get it centered. And then square it up so it looks good, and we'll take that rod. Yeah. I do not want that glue to cause any problems going on in the future. Like I put this down and I glue it to the paper. Always, 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 at least in my mind, take care of your little mistakes immediately. Now, rather than the way I did it last time, what I'm going to do is go in, spread these out now. So then maybe that'll speed things up here. So since we're getting really, really close to finishing up the tractor unit, or the prime mover unit, as they call it, and we'll be moving on to the trailer. One thing that a lot of people talk about with this, and I agree with them, and that is this particular model, this kit, once it's done, is an excellent base for another built kit, and the payload, so to speak, on the trailer. So you can start thinking about, hey, what do I want to put on the trailer? That'd be kind of cool. I myself am using this experience to get ready to build my own copy of this kit, which I have sitting just out of view, and I am so close to almost losing these things. So beware of that when you're trying to put them on. They are squiggly little buggers. But anyways, think about what might interest you in being the payload. It's one of those things that you can use as information to help your resolve. You know, maybe you get into just a tiny bit of a modeling burnout moment, and you're like, oh, geez, I don't want to finish this. This is so blah. Well, maybe knowing what you can put on it will get you excited enough to finish the work. And from what I'm learning here, just doing this, there isn't anything really special to doing this. Just being careful and doing the monotonous work gets it done. There's no other special trick to this. Having steady hands and good eyesight, no matter what form that takes. You might have something that you use for looking with your eyes, like an optivisor or something like that. So looking at it from the front, things are a little skewed, but there's not much I can do because that glue is starting to set. I'm going to go in, start putting some of the glue underneath there. Now this is one place where you want to be careful because you might want to bend the photo etch, and by doing the photo etch from one side you might pull it up on the other, or like I can kind of feel with this, or you might glue your finger to the other side. Or you could launch your piece off of there by applying too much pressure. This is definitely low pressure game. And since I know I can go back with the debonder, I'm going to be a little bit more ugly with that. However, that gets me where I want. While I'm letting that sit for a moment, I will get my trusty debonder loaded Q-tip, which fell on the floor. As long as it's not loaded full of yuck. Nope. I'm going to start just cleaning this up like I did with the other ones. I guess I was wrong about it loaded with yuck, but, well, too bad. I'm in it now. And the idea is just to clean it up so that it looks how you want it to look. Now, do you have to be this fastidious? No. Kind of like what I was saying before. I don't necessarily think that the way that I just did it, if I wasn't doing any of this debonder stuff, would really be a problem. Only because I don't think it's going to leave the, what are we worried about here, guys? Tide marks, glue spots. That the tolerances at this level with the how I was applying it in the first place are so small that I don't think that it's going to show at the level that, you know, let's be honest. If I was going to take this somewhere, I'd take this to an amps. Well, maybe IPMS. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself on that. But I'd more than likely take this to an amps judged contest. The sheer size of this, and considering the fact that the judges have to get through this, means that they may not, I want to stress may not, because there's no guarantee, may not be able to spend as much time looking at the actual glue tide marks around those clasps, hangers, whatever you want to call them, on the fender, on the back. It's kind of there, it's kind of apparent, but when you put the flatbed on top of it, maybe not so much. So, there's that. Now, I just disposed of my tissue with the debonder on it. Now, if you want to be more of a miser, you can, but I like getting rid of them after the end of each use like this so that there's no problems going forward. The tires are being attached at this point. I know that I've discussed this before, but I'm going to bring this up again here real quick if I can pull these out. Well, anyways, here's the actual tire right there. These were put together way back in a different step that I don't remember off the top of my head, but there it is. You could put it on right now if you wanted. I'd save it off, keep it off for painting. That's me just to start with, you know. That's my kind of setup to begin with. But the person that I am building this for also purchased, I am just carefully getting these out here. Also purchased these Panzer Art resin wheels, so I thought I'd just pull them out real quick so people could see how they compare. And as you can see, they're a tiny bit smaller than the rubber ones. They have excellent detail. It's all very similar, and these all came out before CAD. You can see some of the casting rubber right in that seam right there. But I'll clean up these pour plugs, but I mean, aside from that, they're excellent castings. Very, very little in the way of mold seam at all. And they have all the markings and writing on them. So if you had wanted resin wheels instead, they are available up to and including the spare right here. And it does have the mounting bolts already loaded in it. And it has the inner tube. Oh, I can't remember it now. The tire pressure checking stems as well. And you can see the stems access through those two holes right there. So all in all, everything is very nice in that regard. I did not put together that. I will do so in the next video, just because I want to get this done in a timely manner. So there you have it. That's step 31. Again, in the next video, I will cover doing this so we can compare the spare real quick. I would not recommend mounting these on the back, even if these fit nice and tight right in those mounts on the hull. These springs right here, I would recommend not putting those on yet, because these are very fragile. You could easily lose them, bend them, break the photo etched off the truck. I would at minimum prime everything and then put them on. You could maybe prime them on, prime the stuff on, just so that you could get it all in there. But I think that when this is primed, and if you make sure when you prime it, you keep those holes open, and when this is primed, that might thicken it up just enough. You put them in there, they'll be a lot more solid when you glue them in. But we'll deal with that later. As of right now, this is where we're at, and I will see you for the next step. And I believe, yeah, next step is 32. See you then.